let's get into my NFL Week 5 picks. Last week, I struggled, went 7-8. There were a lot of upsets last week. Looking to bounce back. Overall for the season, I'm at 36, 26, and 1. Here are my Week 5 NFL picks. The Thursday game this week comes out of the NFC West. We have the LA Rams traveling up to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Seattle Seahawks. This is a national game that's going to air on Fox Television, on the NFL Network, and on Amazon Prime Video. I was waffling back and forth on this one. I'm going to take Seattle at home. I was leaning towards the Rams for a while, but I'm going to take the Seahawks at home because, the 12th man there in Seattle. I got to go with them. It's going to be a very close game, I think, but I think the Seahawks win in a very close game. Next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals traveling across the country to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Of course, the Bengals are still winless, while the Cardinals, they're kind of there. This is where my upset pick of the week lies as well. I think Arizona's going across the country to Cincinnati and beat the Bengals and keep the Bengals winless. Kyler Murray, he hasn't done terribly bad. I mean, it's been up and down for him. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Bengals, and they looked pathetic on Monday night against the Steelers. Didn't look good at all. I think the Cardinals are going to go to Cincinnati and beat them. We have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Of course, the Music City Miracle is the first thing I think of when I see the Bills at the Titans. Of course, that led the Titans to go into that Super Bowl against the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams at the time. So obviously that will probably be played up during this game. The Bills lost their first game last week. They played, for the most part, they played a pretty good game against the Patriots. They just could not get anything going offensively. The defense really did a good job. I think it's going to be a close game here as well, but I think the Titans are just a little bit better here. Give me the Tennessee Titans at home to beat the Buffalo Bills. We have the Chicago Bears and Oakland Raiders up for battle. This is a game that's going to be in London, England. So this counts as a Raiders home game. The Raiders, they surprised me last week by beating the Colts in Indianapolis, got their first road win in forever. And the Bears, though they didn't look all that great, they beat the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, Mitchell Trubisky has a dislocated shoulder. He's going to be not playing here against the Raiders. So we're going to see Chase Daniel for the Bears. And, of course, with the Raiders, you got Derek Carr. The Raiders have the advantage at the quarterback position. I think the Raiders are winning here. I'm going to take the Raiders at home in London to beat the Chicago Bears in a bit of a surprise. NFC South matchup here. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling down to the Superdome to take on the Saints. The Saints really surprised me by beating the Cowboys on Sunday night. Teddy Bridgewater, he has not played bad. And who saw the Saints-Cowboys game having a total of 22 points for the game? I didn't see that coming. With the Bucs really showed me something by going out to Los Angeles and beating the Rams last week. Again, I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Saints at home are going to just pull it out here. Give me the Saints to beat the Buccaneers. Minnesota Vikings travel to the Meadowlands to take on the Giants. Of course, the Vikings not looking good against the Bears, only scoring 6 points. Kirk Cousins, just not his best effort. The Giants have started to play a little bit better. They are kind of back into the fold here. They're, now 2-2 after a slow start. They're going with Daniel Jones still. That's his team now, really, with Eli on the bench, unless, God forbid something were to happen. The Giants have gotten themselves back into the conversation. I'm going to take the Vikings to win. I still think the Vikings are the better team here. I expect it to be close here as well, but give me the Vikings on the road to beat the Giants. The New York Jets travel over to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. This clearly sets up for the Eagles to win here. The Eagles should win, and I think they will win. They need a win here. Both teams need a win desperately here. The Jets have really, for the most part, have not looked good. And perhaps Sam Darnold will be coming back this week. We'll have to wait and see. He's, of course, coming back from the mono that he's been dealing with. The Eagles are just a better team. Give me the Eagles at home to beat the Jets. AFC North matchup, we have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. The Ravens, after getting off to a strong start, have fallen back a little bit. Now they're 2-2. The Steelers got their first win of the season. They're 1-3. I'm going to go for a bit of a surprise here, I think. I'm going to take the Ravens on the road to beat the Steelers. Lamar Jackson has kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I mean, the Ravens had that big game against the Dolphins in week 1, and it's kind of plateaued a little bit here, kind of back to where he should be. With him and Mason Rudolph for the Steelers, the quarterbacks, two young quarterbacks here. I think, Lamar Jackson has a little bit better talent than Mason Rudolph. I think the Ravens offense is just a little bit better than the Steelers. The Steelers defense looked pretty good, but it was against the Bengals. Give me the Ravens on the road to beat the Steelers. New England Patriots travel to the nation's capital to take on Washington. No doubt that the New England Patriots are going to win here. There's really no discussion. Of course, there's a lot of discussion in Washington with Jake Gruden, what his future may be holding. A loss here could have him fired. We'll have to wait and see. But I expect the New England Patriots to have no trouble against Washington. Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers in a battle of expansion teams that came into the league at the same time in 95-96. Minshew for Jacksonville has done okay. He's done a good job. He's kind of stabilized the ship there after Nick Foles unfortunately got hurt. Cam Newton's going to be out again for Carolina. Kyle Allen, again, he hasn't done terribly bad himself. So we have two backup quarterbacks going at it here. I'm going to take the Panthers at home to win. I think it's a close game, but I think Carolina is just a little bit better here. The Atlanta Falcons travel to Houston to take on the Texans. Talk about the Falcons, a team that's been really disappointing. Probably the most disappointing team in the NFL, not named the Dolphins and Washington. The Falcons, they had all this hype about maybe getting to the playoffs and into the Super Bowl. They were one of the consensus picks by a lot of people to get there. The Falcons 1-3, just not good. I mean, the Texans are what I kind of thought they would be, kind of like this 500 team. Deshaun Watson's done a pretty good job for the most part. Texans lost a close one last week to Carolina, while the Falcons just did not look good at all, losing their game to Tennessee. I'm taking the Texans at home to win. It's just that simple. Out of the AFC West, we have the Denver Broncos traveling to Carson, California to take on the Chargers. Broncos are still winless. They're 0-4. They should have won the game against Jacksonville last week, while the Chargers they got a nice win against the Dolphins. Of course, everyone gets a nice win against the Dolphins. Chargers, I think, will build off that momentum. I think it's a close game, but give me the Chargers to beat the Broncos. The national game for Fox this week is Fox has the doubleheader, the only game that's going to be airing in the 4:25 Eastern window. The Green Bay Packers travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Marquee matchup for sure. Two great quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. I'm a Packers fan. I'm kind of worried here. Packers lost last week. They lost last week to the Eagles in a very close game at home. They're going to be fuming about that because that's a game they could have won. But we had the late interception, and then the Cowboys lost on Sunday night. So both teams coming off losses. I'm going to take the Packers. I think the Packers somehow once again go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys. The Sunday night national game for NBC this week has the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs at home to win here. It's just, again, you got to think, they have the quarterback advantage with Patrick Mahomes over Jacoby Brissett. The Chiefs had a really tough battle with the Lions, and the Colts lost to the Raiders. The Chiefs are the better team. I'll take them. Monday Night Football this week on ESPN has the Cleveland Browns traveling out to the Bay Area to take on the Niners. The Browns got a surprise win over the Ravens. The 49ers, very quietly, they had their bye week last week, but, they're a good team, the 49ers. They're not that bad. They haven't always looked that great this year at times, but they're still a pretty good team. I think the 49ers are going to beat the Browns. That's my pick. The teams on the bye this week are the Lions and the Dolphins. Those are my NFL Week 5 picks.